explain what we're doing today and why we're having such a short service. We are having a congregational meeting about a very important subject, and that is how we as Trinity United Church and Community Center plan to go forward. As you know, we've reached a bit of a milestone in, maybe not how we usually think of a milestone, in that we have no more money. So as much as we prefer to talk about the spirit, if we don't have money, we have a problem. So we're going to discuss options and take a vote, and Pat Schack and Mark Laird, welcome Mark to our worship service, will be leading us through that. So that's all the announcements we're going to take. If there is something critical, can we hear it from the congregation? Just hold up your hand. This is something that's happening today or tomorrow. Okay. We will have a prayer during our meeting and a pastoral prayer. So we are going to simply take up our offering. Would the ushers please move into place? We'll take up our offering and bring this part of the worship to a close. Let us bow our heads in prayer. All that we have and all that we are has come from you, O God. And now we return to you a portion of that which is good and that which represents who we are. Bless these gifts as you have first blessed us, that they may be used for the furthering of your kingdom here in this place at this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
Eric, is this on? Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. It's 11:10 on July 27th. Okay, is that better? Okay, so I want to welcome everybody in attendance today and everyone that is viewing online. And I want to make a special welcome to Reverend Mark Laird from the Antler River Watershed Regional Council. So I'm going to go off the agenda a little bit. I now am going to do a motion to allow adherents to vote. But before we do that, I want to explain what a full member consists of. Because only in the United Church Manual, only full members are allowed to vote at congregational meetings. If they do vote to allow adherents, then adherents can vote. So a full member consists of, you were baptized at Trinity United Church, you transferred your membership from another United Church, or you did a profession of faith. That's the only criteria to be a full member. So we have not kept good records for the last many years. So the membership list that we have is, we had to come up with this membership in the last few weeks as we found out that we didn't have a membership roll. So hopefully we have captured all the full members. We did send out an email to everyone. If you are a full member, please contact Trinity. So we have our list. So now I want to explain what an adherent is. An adherent is someone that has participated or contributed to the life and work at Trinity United Church within the last 5 years. So that's an adherent. Does anybody have any questions on that before we do the vote? Yes, Harry? Oh, we're going to need a mic. No. Okay, but people online can't hear you. Is there any way you can come up? Okay.
Okay.
Test.
Okay, I actually have two questions. The first one is there a quorum required for the number of members at these votes? And second is, can we get a show of hands to see how many full members are in attendance?
Okay. So because our membership list is in between 30 and 99, we have to have at least 10 full members here to do the vote. And we will be doing secret ballots. All our votes today will be secret ballots. So we have them made up, and I will be handing those out shortly.
How many full members are in attendance?
Okay. So I'm going to come around with the ballots.
Can you please raise your hand so I can get a number? Hold them up high.
You two are not full ballot. You're not.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, that changes. Did you transfer his membership? Did you transfer your membership, Andrew?
Hi, folks. Mark Laird, Executive Minister for the Regional Council. So one of the things, so we do have quorum for having the meeting. And so the first motion that we're doing is for members to allow adherents to vote. And so this is a very standard one because in most churches, there are more adherents than there are full members. And so for everyone to have a voice, to have a vote in the meeting later on, we need to pass this motion first that just allows those who are here to be able to have that voice going on, because those that are here have contributed to the life and work of Trinity and so deserve to have that voice. But the manual just says there are certain ways that we have to do this. While we need to know who full members are right now, and there were more than 10 of them here, for all future votes, assuming that this one passes, we will not need to have this question again. It'll then be open to everybody. So this is just for this very first one that allows then everyone to be able to vote.
I was a member. I have joined another church. Can I still be considered a member here? Because I left for my spiritual guidance, not the family of the members.
So you can still vote as an adherent, but if you're a member of another church, yes, but if you've transferred your membership to another church, you can only hold your membership in one community of faith. Okay? Yeah, so you can't vote as a member, but if in the last 5 years you've contributed to the life and work of Trinity, then if this first vote passes, then you will have a voice to be able to vote at future ones.
Lynn Watson, I was here when Kathy Warren was here.
No, I know. So have a membership at another.
Do we have everybody's vote? Okay.
Terry? I can't hear you.
We need the microphone.
But it's okay. We have an overwhelming majority, yes, so we're not going to worry about that. Yeah. Do we need a motion to? Yeah. 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 Okay. Yes, Ken? Okay. James is going to motion. And Eric is going to second. And it's carried. Okay. With the overwhelming majority. Okay. Are we doing the prayer now? You want to do it?
No, we're not following the
Okay,
agenda. I'm
okay,
really sorry.
okay, no problem. Okay. Okay, so now I need a motion to appoint Pat Shack as meeting chair. Tina, seconder, Candace. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now I need a motion to accept Catherine Tuvell as recording secretary. Harry, Nancy, Harry, Cartner? And Nancy McSloy. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay. So we can skip over the motion because we've done that. Motion to approve, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Waltrid, James. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Is that too fast for you? The next motion is to approve the congregational meeting minutes from July 13th, 2025. Bonnie? Don? Okay. Don. Don, what's your last name? What is it? DeBroy. DeBroy. D-U-B-R-L. Yeah, thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, so I think we need an opening prayer from Catherine Chabelle. Please.
Let us offer up a prayer. O Holy Spirit that moves among us and in us and with us at all times, we see you in all of the people around us. We see you in the nature that is outside this door. We see you in untold possibilities. We see you in darkness, in suffering, and in pain. And now we especially ask that you be with us this morning. Give us a kind heart, a generous spirit, patience, that we might work together and hear one another from wherever they are coming from. God, you call us into tough times, but you also provide a way forward. Because we know that if you bring us to it, you will bring us through it. So may we remember the words of the psalmist, "Be still, and know that I am God." We ask for your blessings, especially this morning on Pat and Mark, as they lead us through this discussion and through these decisions. We pray in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Catherine. So now I can ask if Reverend Mark Laird has prepared do you want your slideshow now? Okay, Eric? Do you?
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay? Am I far close enough? Okay. So my name is Reverend Mark Laird. I'm the Hey, my name is Reverend Mark Laird. I'm the executive minister for Antler River Watershed, as well as Western Ontario Waterways and Horseshoe Falls Regional Councils. I am the diaconal minister. I come from a family of ministers. My dad is a retired ordained minister in the United Church of Canada. My mom is a retired but still working diaconal minister in Alberta in the United Church of Canada. And my dad's dad was also actually an ordained minister in the United Church of Canada. So I kind of felt I didn't really have much of a choice, but this was kind of the predestined way for our family. I knew my sister wasn't going to do it, so I knew it was going to fall on me. So I'm here today in my role to help explain the options for Trinity moving forward and to help be able to facilitate this important conversation. I want you to know that I'm going to be sharing some information and going to be suggesting things for you to take into account when you are voting later. In no way in any of this information am I telling you how to vote. What I will be sharing is information that if you vote this way, this is what may happen, or this is what is going to happen. If you vote this way, this is what is going to happen, because I think that is important information to know, because sometimes we come to a decision not really understanding what that means for future steps. So I am not saying that there is a predestined way forward right now for Trinity United Church. The Regional Council will support Trinity in whatever way that we can, in whatever way that Trinity decides to move forward. Depending on what decisions are made, will depend on what support can be offered or in what ways. And so I can't tell or answer for certain how that support will look because I don't know what decisions are going to be made in the next little bit to know what then support is needed. So I have my first couple slides are kind of a recap from your last congregational meeting and things about no matter what you decide today, there are some common factors for moving forward. And so that's what my first couple slides are going to be about. And then I'm going to explain what nesting is and what that can possibly look like. And then I'm going to explain what disbanding is and what does that look like as well. So if we could go to the next slide, that'd be great. Okay. So I think from your congregational meeting 2 weeks ago, when you're presented with the financial statements of where Trinity is at now and what it looks like moving forward, if you remember in those statements, without the building, Trinity was still operating at approximately a $12,000 a month deficit. So that is the title for this slide, is that things can't continue as they are. Selling the building, finding somewhere else to be as Trinity, and keeping everything exactly the same cannot happen because it cannot be afforded. Okay? So again, I'm not telling you what decision you need to make moving forward, but you need to know that any decision going forward is going to look different to what Trinity looks like today. And so I just have to be clear about that. Even that projected deficit, what I'll say is that projected deficit that was shown, even if we account for some things that I think we can adjust to make the deficit look better, because it didn't include any investment income, and it included some things that get charged quarterly as a monthly expense, but still adjusting for those two things, it is still an $8,000 to $9,000 deficit a month. And so even with adjusting for that, again, things can't, that's assuming everything else stays as it is. That just is not possible. So Trinity cannot financially afford to continue with the same level of ministry that Trinity has, no matter what option is chosen moving forward. The pastoral relationship that Trinity has with its current minister at half-time ministry has to change. We'll talk about this a little bit later, depending on how other votes go, to explore that. But the idea is that Trinity cannot afford a minister at half-time. Moving forward, it may be possible for Trinity to afford a minister at a quarter time, but you have to understand a quarter time means 10 hours a week. And if you have a minister at a quarter time at 10 hours a week, they cannot be expected to preach every Sunday. Because if they preach every Sunday, the standard practice idea of how long it takes to prepare a Sunday service and lead a Sunday service is anywhere between 8 and 12 hours a week. So if you have a minister for just 10 hours a week, that is all they can do, and they do not have time to attend meetings. They do not have time to do any pastoral care. So if you do have a minister at 10 hours a week, it would be, and it turned out that, as we'll see in future slides, turns out that you do need them for worship leadership. They would still only be able to provide worship leadership every other Sunday, so then that other week they have time to do some pastoral care and to be able to attend the meetings that they need to attend. So moving forward, a lot of times we think of, when we're looking at a budget or looking at a deficit, we think of, oh, well, what can we cut to improve our deficit? I think a better way for Trinity to look at this moving forward is you need to work off what your projected income is without a building. And then depending on what that projected income is without a building is what allows you to make the decisions on if Trinity is moving forward, what sort of options might be available to you. Can we move to the next slide, please? So, I didn't move down on mine. So the projected income, when including a conservative investment income on the sale of the building, and I'll talk about that just in a second, is $6,000 a month or $72,000 a year. These numbers also assume the same level of givings that is currently happening. So the investment income comes from the sale of the building. Okay? When Trinity sells the building, if in a future, in one of the votes that we have later, the community of faith decides that they would like to continue on in searching out nesting possibilities, and we'll talk about what those are, you cannot use the proceeds from the sale of the building to supplement operational costs. Because one could say, well, what if we sell the building and after we've paid off all the debt that we have, we still have $500,000? Well, we can use that $500,000 and keep things as they are. Well, no, you can't, because if you continue to run a $12,000 a month deficit, that $5,000 disappears very quickly, and then you no longer have a building to sell to be able to help get yourselves out of debt and do something else. The other thing that I think is important to remember is that Trinity is a part of the United Church of Canada, and this is not just a Trinity situation. This is every church. We do not allow to use the sale of building proceeds to run operating costs, because that is, again, not fair to the rest of the communities of faith. So $6,000 a month, that is what your projected givings are from people who give through PAR, from the weekly offering, people who give through envelopes, and the loose offering that's collected on the plate, plus very modest investment income. That's not a lot of money. That doesn't mean that something can't happen moving forward. But again, we need to share the realities of what it is for when you're making your decisions in a little bit. So nesting will allow for the people of Trinity to continue to worship together, but there's a very good chance that it is not going to look like what worship looks like now. Okay? For one, there is a very good chance that it obviously will not be in this building, because we don't know who the building is going to be sold to at this time, so don't know if that is even an option. It also, as we'll see when we go through the nesting options, or some of the possibilities, it does look different, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Okay? Just because something is different does not mean it's bad. What it does mean is that it does require the buy-in of the community of faith to be able to try something new. Some communities of faith are more ready and willing to try something new, others are not. And that is, there's no commentary on that, there's no judgment on that. As I heard someone say before the service starts, if we remember a bird song, but I think they got it from Ecclesiastes, there is a time for every season and for every matter under heaven. It is not a bad thing for whatever that time is for Trinity moving forward. And finally, if Trinity does choose to explore nesting, it does require the financial commitment of the congregation in order to be able to make it work. Okay? When we're talking, so this is where I'm talking about what your implications of your vote are, but I'm not telling you how to vote. If you decide that you want to explore nesting in your own heart, that is what you feel is best for Trinity, but you have no intention of traveling with Trinity to another community of faith to worship in a different way, I would find it very hard to be able to, if that was myself, I would find it very hard to be able to put down a yes, Trinity should explore nesting, if I'm not willing to be invested in exploring that, being honest with myself. Will I actually travel to a different location to worship and be able to and continue to support Trinity financially once we're there? Again, I'm not telling you that you should vote yes or no, but I think that's a very important question to ask yourself, because in it, anecdotally, in my experience of other communities of faith who have faced similar questions of should we continue on, or are we saying that this is the end of who we are at this current time and trusting the Spirit and doing that, you have to know it is very, very, very rare that a community of faith does not lose at least 15 to 20% of its members, adherents, financial givers when a major change happens. So that's why I'm emphasizing, if exploring nesting and looking at something like that you really feel is what God is calling Trinity to do, I need you to also ask yourself, is that what God calling me to do in supporting Trinity in that way? And that's why I can't tell you how to vote, because I can't answer that question for you. Only you can answer that question for what God is calling you to be and how to support Trinity in whatever way Trinity is moving forward. Okay, can we move to the next slide, please? So what I'm going to do now, we'll just take a quick breath. I guess before I discuss what the two nesting options could look like, I guess I will ask, does anyone have any questions about what I've said right now that you need more explanation? This is not a time, I'll just say this is not a time to debate. Yes, I think we should do this. No, do you have any questions about what I said that doesn't make sense to you, that you need something cleared up, that you're having trouble understanding what I'm saying? We want to make sure everyone's on the same page, knowing what the questions are coming forward that we're going to vote on. You will have a chance later to speak up and to talk about whether you think nesting is a good idea or not. You can give your opinion then. This is not currently a time for opinion, but a time for questions of clarification. Does anyone have any questions from what I've been saying so far? None online either? Just in case? One always give them an option as well. Okay. So if someone online does have a question, please type it. They can type it into a chat, right? So please type it into the chat, and we'll get that here. Okay. Thank you for that. If you do have a question about something I'm saying, again, a clarifying question, you are welcome to raise your hand during these next presentations, to these next few slides to see, and I can answer it then. So it looks like I put too much wording on the PowerPoint slides, so we're missing the bottom two words on the last one. So I'll read it for you as well. So I am giving you two separate ideas of what nesting could look like. It doesn't mean, and today, just so you know later, the vote is not voting on, well, which of these ideas do we like? The voting it will be on, do we want to explore nesting? What I'm explaining is what could that look like, and to give you some different options. Because I think when I say nesting, if I asked people, I bet I would get 3 to 8 different answers from all of you here as to what that means to you. And so, again, want to be clear so that everyone has the ideas moving forward. So one option could be nesting, worshiping separate. So in this situation, a date would be chosen to be the last worship service in this building. Trinity then, after that date, would nest with Church A. I just used anonymous names because I don't want anyone getting hung up on, oh, I don't want to nest with that community of faith. That's not the conversation right now. The conversation is, do you want to explore something and see what that is? So Trinity nests with Church A. So Church A worships, let's say, at 11 o'clock. Trinity then worships at a different time using Church A's sanctuary. So in that instance, Trinity would, let's say, worship at 9 o'clock. It could be flipped. It could also be that Church A actually worships at 10:30. And so if Trinity is going to nest in that community of faith, then it really makes sense that actually Trinity needs to have a service in the afternoon or have a service in the evening, because having a separate service before or after 10:30 might not work very well to get one in the morning. In this situation of nesting and worshiping separately, Trinity would have their own worship leadership and would also need to figure out what they're doing for pastoral care. So in this sort of situation, it could be an option to have a minister at 10 hours a week who helps to provide worship leadership and then does pastoral care on the weeks that they're not providing worship leadership. It could also be that Trinity decides that moving forward they would like to be a lay-led community of faith, not have a ministry personnel leading worship, and having pulpit supply ministers come in and provide worship on Sundays. That again is not zero cost, because pulpit supply ministers also, there's honorariums and payments given to them. So it doesn't save you all money by going that way, but that could be an option, and we'll talk about the pastoral relation piece a little bit later. Can we go to the next slide? You went too far. I need back one more. There we go. Thank you. No, that's fine. So nesting, if you're worshiping together. So this could be another option of, if you vote to explore nesting, this could be an option that a committee brings back. So again, a date would be chosen to be the last worship service in this building. Trinity nests with Church A. Church A and Trinity worship at the same time. So that would then mean that Church A and Trinity probably are using the same worship leadership. In that sort of scenario, Trinity still, even though you're worshiping with the other community of faith and you're sitting in the pews with them, you are still a separate body governed by your own council and all of that. You just happen to be worshiping with them. That would all be something that would have to be worked out in a collaborative agreement with this community of faith. But an example of how you then keep that separate is that Trinity and Church A still keep track of their own givings via different envelopes. So Trinity still has Trinity United Church envelopes, and when givings are given, at the end, it gets separated out, and so that's how Trinity then funds its ministry and how Church A funds its ministry. In this situation, again, assuming that the Trinity and Church A are then using the same worship leadership, meaning worship leader, music, that sort of thing, then Trinity would need to still figure out what they're doing for pastoral care for themselves. And so that is where it could be possible that Trinity hires a minister at 10 hours a week just to do pastoral care and attend board meetings and not do worship. You have to remember, again, as we talked earlier, at this current time, Trinity cannot afford to have someone in ministry for more than 10 hours a week. And so that is, I think, the absolute maximum without having other expenses that Trinity would be able to afford moving forward. So the next slide is some common nesting facts. So as I said before, things cannot continue how they are. No matter what option moving forward is chosen, that option does need to meet a balanced budget. That is the challenge that Trinity is in right now, is that Trinity does not have a wealth of reserves to be able to say, well, we can carry a $5,000 a month deficit for a year while we figure this out. Trinity doesn't have that option right now. Until the building sells and you are able to start getting some investment income to augment, Trinity is right now, with the givings that are given so generously by the members of the community of faith, Trinity is also being supported by the regional council by loans to be repaid on the sale of the building that allow Trinity to continue to operate in the short term while something is figured out. But that is not a long-term solution, because the regional council will eventually run out of money if we keep loaning Trinity money. And also, if the regional council keeps loaning Trinity money, then when Trinity sells the building, there is not going to be as much left to be able to invest anyway, right? So that becomes the challenge. So as I've said, this does mean that there does need to be a change in pastoral relationship. And again, depending on how the next couple of votes go, we will revisit this later. So Trinity, in both situations of nesting, would need to figure out what they're doing for pastoral care. It could also be similar to how Trinity and Mount Zion are right now. Perhaps Trinity nests with Church A and buys 5 hours, 8 hours a week of pastoral care from the minister that is at Church A. That can be a possibility instead of Trinity hiring their own minister for that amount of time. And so then in any nesting situation, Trinity works with Church A to figure out what other spaces or services, such as admin staff, custodial, musicians, that they can share, and figures out what kind of rent might have to be paid to be able to use the space as well. Again, for all of that, knowing that you still need to be able to have a balanced budget on $6,000 a month. I have one more nesting common fact slide. So the Congregation of Trinity needs to still be financially supporting the church in any nesting scenario, because that is saying Trinity United Church is continuing on in some way, just worshiping differently than what they are now. In any nesting situation, Trinity continues its legacy by having the congregation worshiping together for those who do choose to move with Trinity. As I said before, I have not yet seen a situation where 100% of people do actually move forward. If Trinity does choose to nest, the financial situation may also require nesting before the building is sold. And so, as I said, in both situations, there's a date chosen for the final worship. We cannot guarantee that the building in Trinity, that once it gets listed for sale, is going to sell in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 months or longer. So it may be possible that if Trinity decides to nest and move forward, that may have to happen before the building actually sells. Okay? Let's move to the next slide, because then I have some things at the end that are in general as well. So, disbandment. So this is what this looks like. So basically, in a few minutes, we're going to have a vote, and before that vote, people will have a chance to speak about does Trinity United Church want to explore nesting moving forward? Right? Does Trinity want to see if there are options out there, what those options are, and then bring those options back to the community of faith to move forward? As I said, I would encourage you for all of these votes to think deeply, because they all require something from the community of faith, something from each of you. And if the vote requires something that you're not able to give, I ask you to think about that deeply. So here's what disbandment looks like. We'll go down to the next slide, please. So a date is chosen to be the last worship service in this building. That is the same in both situations. Both disbandment and nesting involve a lot of work. Disbandment is work that moves towards a more certain outcome. The work for nesting is going to be a lot of work as well, but you also don't really know what that outcome is. There is definitely, there is more trusting in the Spirit to show you what that outcome will look like. We know what the end of disbandment will look like, but that is also not necessarily the end for members at Trinity United Church, and I'll explain that in a minute also. So if disbandment is chosen, then Trinity uses the time before disbandment to end well, to celebrate who Trinity has been, to celebrate where people from Trinity may go in the future, and to celebrate what this community of faith has meant to this congregation and this community. All of those also can happen in nesting, but they have a different feel, because you're celebrating what you have been in this building as you move forward, but you are still moving forward as a community of faith in that sense. So it does have a different feel to what those celebrations and that looks like. And final slide, please. You're already on it. Leadership in a disbandment. Leadership helps those worshiping at Trinity who wish to find a church home once Trinity closes, and helps to organize that to, if people are full members at Trinity, help to organize the transfer of membership. But also it could look like helping to organize dates or Sundays where we say, people from Trinity, we're going to go and worship at this church today, so people can get a feel for what it's like if this is where they might feel like could be home after Trinity disbands. So in a disbandment situation, Trinity continues its legacy by donating a portion of its remaining assets after the sale of the building to other United Church of Canada ministries. So this is where I just want to clear something up that was at the last congregational meeting. If Trinity disbands and they're selling their building, the United Church of Canada does not get 100% of the proceeds. We have a property policy in the Regional Council I don't have the percentages exactly memorized, but a portion, when a community of faith disbands, their remaining assets, which would be the money that comes out of the sale of the building, any investments they have, any money they have left in the bank, gets divided up where a portion goes to mission and service, a portion goes to the Mission and Service Endowment Fund, a portion goes to archives to help preserve the history of the United Church and other United Churches, including, in this case, it would be Trinity that is closed, to help preserve their records. A portion of the proceeds goes to the Indigenous ministries of the United Church of Canada. Trinity United Church gets the largest portion, which I believe is about 33%, where they're allowed to say where they would like that money to go in supporting another United Church of Canada ministry. So in a lot of situations, what may happen is in a community where there are, let's say there are two options. So I know London has more churches than two, but let's say a community has two options for where the members of the church that is disbanding can go. A lot of times what would happen is the community of faith would take that 33% that they have and say, okay, well, we're going to give half of that to Church A and half of that to Church B to help support those our members who are going to those churches to help support their ministry that they can continue. Lots of times churches choose to give money to camps, give money to United Church camps, give money to other United Church foundations or funds that the church has supported in the past. So it is not, and then a portion of the money does also come to the regional council. What that portion of the money that comes to the regional council does is it allows the regional council to continue to help other communities of faith in the regional council when they have struggles that come up. To be honest, the money that we have been able to loan to Trinity over the last 5 years comes because other communities of faith have disbanded and sold their building, and the regional council has had a portion of that money, I believe it's 25% of the total, and invests it and then uses the investment income to be able to support other communities of faith. I want to be clear that in both nesting and disbandment, while the decision may be immediate today, the outcome is not immediate, right? If Trinity decides that they would like to continue to explore nesting, that does not mean that you're going to have somewhere to nest next week, or in 2 weeks, or in a month or 2 months. It will take some time and some work to figure that out, which allows the community to also continue to work and to continue to have conversations and to continue to find ways forward. The same is, and I think there is a big fear whenever people talk about a church closing, that does not mean that the church is going to close tomorrow. That if that's what the outcome of today is, that does not mean that the church is going to close tomorrow or next week or next month or necessarily even in the next 3 months. It still allows a process for the community of faith to end well, to look for ways that it can continue to support the people that are here in what other faith communities might they wish to be able to go to and help to make those connections. It is not one where that is the vote, and so therefore, okay, well, I guess we're done, and so next week the doors are closed. That is not how it goes. When a church chooses to disband, lots of times they'll pick a date 4 to 6 months from that date so that they can plan ways to end well. I've heard people talk about, you want to have a nice last service. You want to have a party. Maybe you want to have a concert. Maybe you want to do things that remind you of what that legacy that you had and to remind you of those good times that you have so that you can take that with you moving forward. It is not an immediate, and it is not done without feeling and caring, because it is challenging for the community of faith and for other communities of faith, because no one likes to see anyone hurting or be in grief. So what is going to be happening is we have a couple votes to do. First will be a vote to appoint scrutineers for this next ballot, because the next couple votes are very, very important. And I'm not saying the members allowing adherents to vote isn't important, but we were in that strange situation of technically only members can vote until that motion is made. So we can't make a motion appointing scrutineers until we've allowed the hear. It's one of those weird process things, but we do need to be following process. So we'll be having a vote that will just be by hands raised. We already have some volunteers who are not members and not adherents at Trinity to be scrutineers, to be able to count votes. Then we're going to have a vote, and again, there will be time for discussion, but after that discussion, there will be a vote called for, and it'll be a secret ballot, if Trinity wants to explore nesting. Okay, so that's what I was talking about before, and to be thinking about when you're making that vote, how you're able to contribute to that moving forward. If the nesting vote does not pass, then, because officially we need a motion from the community of faith for disbandment, we then would have a vote on the community of faith disbanding. It would not have an end date set to it. It would be as open as we can make it to allow for, as I said, all of that good ending. But I just want to be clear that there really are two options right now. I know at the last congregational meeting, there was talk about amalgamation, talk about other things. The challenge is amalgamation takes building relationship and takes time. And the financial situation of Trinity does not have that time to choose that right now. If Trinity chooses to explore nesting, I can see it being very likely in the future that if Trinity does find a church to nest with, that perhaps they develop a good relationship, and perhaps that Trinity does decide to amalgamate with that community of faith moving forward. But Trinity does not have the financial ability to maintain currently as it is while it explores options like amalgamation. So your options are looking to explore nesting and bring back some ideas for the council and to look through and to bring to the community of faith, or disbanding. The option of nesting does provide more options for the future, but it does also take more work. And it still needs the love and care and support of all of you here in order to be able to make that work. So again, we will have a chance to talk about nesting and for people to give their opinions on how they feel, on what they feel, how they feel that looks, so that you can share that with others in the room, so that we can let the Spirit move amongst us to gain the wisdom, and maybe it moves something in your heart from what you thought you might be voting coming in. Maybe that changes. That's why at the United Church of Canada we don't allow for proxy votes or for mail-in ballots, because it's really hard for the Spirit to work through a mail-in ballot when they're not present to have the conversation. Does anyone have any questions? Again, questions for clarification around what I shared about the different nesting options, or what disbandment looks like, or about the process moving forward? So you need to recognize people.
I have a question from a text message. So this is not considered our very final service then?
No.
People were wondering if this was what it was.
No, this is not the final service at all.
Okay.
Right?
I have two questions.
Oh, Kathy, can you just identify yourself for our minutes?
Kathy O'Leary.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
My first question is, what exactly is the difference between your second option for nesting, like with using the same minister, and amalgamation?
Okay. So the difference is that in amalgamation, Trinity United Church ceases to exist, and the other community of faith cease to exist and form a new community of faith of the two joined together. A lot of times in amalgamation, that results in a name change. In Western Ontario Waterways, we just had an amalgamation of Alora United Church, Bethany United Church, and Alma United Church. They came together and are now called Hope Springs United Church. And so they no longer function as three individual bodies with three individual budgets, with three individual governing bodies. They are one community of faith. It took them a year and a half to get that worked out. So the challenge is you as Trinity United Church cannot say, well, we want to amalgamate with Church A without talking to Church A and figuring out if that will work and figuring out how that will look moving forward and all of those pieces. So if nesting is chosen by the vote, it could be possible to explore amalgamation in the future, but you cannot explore amalgamation right now because that's not just a Trinity decision, it's a Trinity and another church decision. And the problem is that, again, with the deficit that Trinity is running with the building as well as without, changes need to be made before you can have that conversation. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
And my second question was, both nesting options mean that we would have to pay rent, correct?
Possibly.
Oh.
It will depend on what community of faith that you find to work with and what collaborative agreement you can work with them, right? Like, for example, if you are nesting and sharing the same worship time, it is possible, but not guaranteed, that they might say, well, we're here anyway. We're not putting more heat in the building because it's the same amount of heat if there's an extra 50 people here or not. Actually, it might be less because there's body heat, right? Like, so there might be something that could be worked out, but I don't know that, and I can't answer what rent may or may not be.
But you're taking into account, when you said that approximately $6,000 we have, you're taking the rent into account within that?
No. $6,000 is your income, not your expenses. So you have $6,000 a month to spend. If some of that has to be spent on rent, then that obviously means that you can't afford other things.
But we don't have extra on top of that for rent?
No.
Okay.
Rent
Thank
would
you.
have to fit into the $6,000 a month. But like I said, I don't know what rent will be because I don't know if you go that way what sort of option might happen.
Hi, I'm Heather McGuire.
Closer.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Heather McGuire.
Thanks, Heather.
I was just wondering, so when we're talking about nesting and worshiping like separately, is there a requirement for the amount of like pastoral or lay ministry you have? Because I believe you don't have to be a lay minister to lead a service, for example. So is there any sort of, how does that work?
Sure. So this will get into a little bit about our pastoral relations conversation later, once we see how how we get there. You do need, every community of faith does need to have either an appointed or called ministry personnel or a pastoral charge supervisor. And so because, for example, this meeting here today, because Charmaine is on vacation, your called ministry personnel is not here, you could not have this meeting unless there was someone appointed from the regional council to be here. This is what the manual says. This is not a my rule. This is a United Church of Canada rule. So it is possible to have a lay-led congregation where you have different people leading the service each Sunday, but those people are not able to offer pastoral care because it is very clear as well that it is only ministry personnel. Now, I say this in a way like, you all offer pastoral care to each other. right? We all do that. No one comes up here and says, oh, I'm having a bad day, and the other person, well, not my problem, right? Like, right? We all offer pastoral care to each other, but it is very different when you're seeking pastoral care from your minister in what that is. And so there are rules around who can offer that kind of pastoral care that isn't just in general what everyone would do. So you do not need to have someone there every Sunday as ministry personnel, but that would then mean that you need to have a pastoral charge supervisor appointed who can be at meetings and who can still help to lead, but they also don't offer pastoral care. So then you need to figure out as a lay-led community how you can manage that pastoral care. If you have other ministers, the nice thing about London is there are a lot of United Churches. If you have other ministers that you have agreements with them that they'll be willing to be on call if there's a pastoral emergency or if there is a funeral, and then you would pay them accordingly based on whatever you've worked out with them for that. Or you can call a minister for 5 hours a week, for 20 hours a month, for whatever, to be offering pastoral care. Does that help answer your question? Okay.
James, Andrew has a question.
These are all very good questions as well, because as I said,
Chris, right?
yeah, I heard the
We
question
have to have a
already.
minister to celebrate Eucharist.
Yes, you need a ministry personnel or a sacraments elder. In cases where communities of faith do not have ministry personnel, the regional council can appoint someone to take the sacraments, or someone can request, and the regional council agrees, to have someone take the sacrament elders training. But you do need someone for that. So that would be the situation where if Trinity is nesting somewhere, worshiping on their own, at a separate time from the other church where you're nesting, and Trinity has someone that wants to be baptized, or you want to celebrate communion, on those Sundays you would need to get a pulpit supply minister who is ordained or diaconal minister, or someone who's available to do the sacraments. Most churches were not the same as the Catholic Church. So most United Churches do not do communion every Sunday. So I know at the last church that I served, we did communion 6 times a year. And so it's not hard to find someone to be able to help you serve communion or do baptisms when you need it. But yes, you do need a minister to do that, but you can get someone to come in to do that. Anyway, these are all good questions to help foster what sort of, what this looks like moving forward. I appreciate it.
Bonnie Spencer-Beer.
Hi, Bonnie.
A lot of people don't know this, and this is just about nesting. We have an estate money to come from Ron Griffin, and it's going to take a while for it to happen, but it could be, and I talked to Ron a long time ago, but it could be maybe about $100,000. So if we had nesting, that money would eventually come to Trinity. Is that correct? That we can use, but we would have to use it very sparingly.
So that is correct. That doesn't change the need still for selling the building or the need for changing the pastoral relationship, because if you continue on as it is, a $9,000 a month deficit, that $100,000 is gone in a year. And is that really a good, my question would be, is do people feel that is a good honoring of that estate money to have it just vanish in a year and then Trinity be in the same position then that they are now? So it doesn't change these decisions we have to make. It is possible that if Trinity does choose to nest, that money would be able to come in and you would be able to add it to your investments to be able to use the interest off those investments to help pay for things. Yes. But unfortunately, it doesn't change the decisions we have to make.
Kitty Johnston. If we vote to nest, will there be another vote and meeting down the road when we'll vote where we're going to nest?
100%.
Hi, I'm Barb Hamer. I was just wondering, if we did nest with another church and if we were there at the same time, do we pay for the minister there too?
You would have to, that's part of the negotiations with that church for what that nesting contract looks like. So that's why it is very vague, and the motion is going to be, do you want to explore nesting? Because we don't know what nesting options are available. We don't know what it is going to look like. So it may be that yes, you do. It may be no, you don't, because the community of faith and the minister says, well, I'm going to be here anyway. But it may be the minister and the other community of faith A feel that, yes, but by having an extra 50 people there, it does actually put a little bit of extra strain and work on the minister. And so we would like there to be a little bit of payment. But that would all be worked out in any collaboration agreement. So I can't give you a straight answer because I don't know what the other community of faith would say and what the agreement would look like. Sorry.
My name is Terry Payne. How much time do we have to identify somebody to possibly nest with and to see if that's going to work out before further decisions are made? The way I see it is something like a couple moving in together, deciding if they're going to, and then decide to get married later. How much time is there for that?
So I would say that you have months, not weeks, but also months, not a year. Because the challenge again is in the last, so again, this is just being completely transparent. In the last 2 months, the regional council has loaned Trinity United Church $110,000. That should get you through the end of this year. Continuing as you are, assuming that people still continue to give because the church is still continuing on, you still have service on Sunday, there are still expenses to pay. That should help cover your deficits for the end of the year. After that, it would have to be another conversation with the regional council. We'd have to see where we're at in selling the building. I can't unfortunately give you a definite answer because it will depend on other things. If the building sells, then you will have more of a definite date of when you need to be figuring out something to nest. And my hope is, if Trinity decides that they would like to nest moving forward, would like to explore nesting, the next vote will then be to ask for volunteers and to create a team of people to do that exploration. And my hope is that within the next 2 to 3 months, they can come back to the board at Trinity, and the board can review the options and then figure out a way of how they would like to present those options to the community of faith, where the community of faith can then have a conversation about that. Because yes, it does take time to have those conversations, but unfortunately also Trinity does not have an exorbitant amount of time to be able to do it. So we have to do it a little bit more rushed than we normally would. But does that answer your question somewhat? So it's not like you have to have it done by the end of August, but really you need to know what you're doing by the end of the year.
Okay, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, my name's Jason Sullivan. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you to Mark for really modeling Ephesians 4:15 to us and speaking the truth in love. I think you've done it really well in sharing the options with us this morning. A question I have about nesting would be, do we have a roundabout idea what our financial budget would be on a monthly basis? Like
$6,000.
$6,000. So I think it's important for everybody here to understand that not only are we voting on an idea, but we're also making a commitment financially.
100%.
And I think it's important to understand if we're saying $6,000 divided by, there's about 40 people here. Everybody's committing. If you vote, you're making a commitment as well to giving $150 a month at least.
Now, what I will say, some of that 6,000 is considered investment income.
Okay.
So you can be closer to between 4 and 4,500 that
Okay.
comes in donations each month. So that does give a little bit of a break.
Okay.
And that investment income, I will say, is a very conservative number.
Okay.
But we have to use a conservative number because if the church takes a year to sell, there will be more debt because of that.
Sure.
And so therefore the church, Trinity, won't have as much money to invest.
Okay.
Right? And as I said already, with the mortgage and the loans to the regional council, we're up around close to $300,000 that have to come off the top of the sale of a building anyway.
Okay.
So, but you're correct, and that's what I was saying before, is that if someone is going to vote, and again, I'm not telling you how to vote. This is, everyone needs to think about this for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I would feel myself very uncomfortable voting to say, yes, we need to continue on, if I had no intention of continuing to financially support Trinity.
Yeah, and I think it's important for everybody to understand that. Again, I'm just trying to keep the spirit of speaking the truth in love, because I think it's important for us. So, I've only been here maybe 6 months and really do love this place, and so just wanted to share some of my thoughts. Thank you.
No, thanks, Jason. And it's not saying that is not saying that it, like, in my mind, when I say that, I'm not saying it's a definite vote one way or the other, right? It is do you want to continue to support and work? So, and that's also that financial forecast is based on what kind of givings are right now, right? I think, right, Ali? Right? It's based on what average givings are per month right now. So it's not necessarily asking for more, but it is asking to continue.
Okay, I know about the nesting, but what about our...
Identify yourself, please.
I'm sorry. Mary Byron, I'm part of the... I'm sorry. I'm part of the, I guess would be called the group for the hospitality. What does that include for us that volunteer as ushers and do the hospitalities and everything else that comes into the church here at Trinity? Where do we stand in our situation?
So, this is my understanding piece, is that until the building sells, and as long as Trinity is still worshiping here at the building, you still need to be welcoming to each other in this space, right? You still need to have ushers. You still need people to collect the offering, people to say hi on Sunday morning, those sorts of things. I can't tell you what the needs will be if Trinity chooses to nest until we know who Trinity might choose to nest with and what that looks like. If Trinity is choosing, in my first scenario, of nesting, worshiping separate, then that would mean that Church A worships at, so let's say, 9 o'clock, and Trinity worships at 11 o'clock. Well, in that situation, when Trinity worships, there will still need to be hospitality for people coming to that service. If it is an option where you're worshiping with another community of faith, it could be one that you work together, and you set up a schedule where for this month, it will be people from Trinity who are helping to do those pieces. The next month, it'll be Church A that's doing it, but that all has to be worked out as part of the collaboration agreement. But as long as you are worshiping in this building, you do still need, as we talked about, people to be generous and to give of both their talents and their time to allow what you have here at Trinity in this building to succeed while you're still here. Does that help? Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, you see me?
Yes.
Good. Come over. I'm Dietana O'Deary. I am a member of the church. What I keep hearing is that we do not have a lot of money. We are indeed, if I can be very frank, mostly a poor church with a lot of people who are struggling financially. So even if we go forward with nesting, let's say, it's still a financial cost to everyone in the long run. That's what we have to look at. I mean, you've said something about we need an ordained pastor for Eucharist. We need lay leaders possibly. We need pastoral care. We have to pay our rent. We have to consider all those costs going forward, even if we nest. Even if we get with someone else, we still need to consider those costs. We don't know what there'll be, let's be honest. We really don't.
Nope.
The second thing is if the church sells before those months that you say that we have, if it sells, we still have to leave.
Yes.
Yes. We're not certain whether these people that buy it up will agree to nest with us.
100%, because the church at the current time is not listed. So we don't know who's going to buy. So it could be, it's one of those things where this is, again, unfortunately, the time crunch that Trinity is under with the financial situation is Trinity, if it takes the building a year to sell, Trinity cannot wait a year to find a nesting partner.
That is correct.
And so you can't assume that, oh, well, we'll just sell to someone who will let us use the building.
That's right.
Because you can't assume that. Because also, if you say, oh, well, these people will let us use the building for free, but they only want to pay $800,000 when the building is actually worth $1.2 million, okay, well, that's $400,000 then that Trinity doesn't have to invest to help augment your income.
Yes.
And I don't think that difference is the same as what rent-free would be, right? So, like, you have to, it is an unknown.
The other unknown would be, even if someone buys it up and we ask to nest with them, their costs are going up too to run a church. All over the world, the costs are going up, especially for, businesses and churches. So, it's fair for them to ask a certain price for us to rent from them. It only makes sense. But we don't know what that price is going to be either. Nope. Okay, thank you.
Yep, and so that is if the vote is to explore nesting, that it will be part of that team to figure out, okay, what options are there? What are the costs? What is that other community of faith? What kind of agreements can we make? What can that look like? And then those options will be brought back. But right now, we don't have any answers to any of those.
My name is Bernie Bax. I was at church a month or so ago, and we celebrated 70 years here. This church used to be filled to the rafters, including the balcony from the people. This church has done a wonderful celebration to this community, but look at us for the last 2 or 3 years. We've ran deficits, we're having difficulty meeting our ends completely one way or another. It's stretching council to the limit. Why don't we just have a wonderful, thankful celebration? What this church has meant to this part of London, Ontario. And that's where my head is going. There's a time for everything, a time to live and a time to die, Ecclesiastes. We have to carefully think what our time is. There's no shame at all because this church is what it is today. We're not the only church that's struggling. But what we can do for each other is help us to all move forward in our faith journey to wherever that leads us and to be with us. And I trust we will all keep that in mind relative to all the nesting financial educations, but remember who we are and who we have been as a church, and with thankfulness to say, there's a time. The church is going to be sold. It's not going to be here. Thank you.
Okay, I think Candace has a question. DJ, is the Spiritualist Church coming in today? What time? Okay. So maybe
then we should move to the scrutineers, because then we can have more debate after.
Yeah.
I guess
Candace,
other
identify
folks.
yourself, please.
Sorry?
Identify yourself.
Candace Lubick.
Last name.
Lubick, Lubick.
Thanks, Candace.
I guess there's not a lot of questions happening right now. It's just folks expressing their opinions. And the question that we have is really, can we hold it together as a family for a further exploration of if we're going to stay together as a family? And like a church home, and will we gather together? It's not a solid vote today on whether that's yes or no. It's, are we willing to explore one more option to stay together? And I got nowhere else. I got nobody else in this neighborhood. Yes, we're going to lose this building. But in the future, there may be options for us to come back together in this neighborhood or another neighborhood as a community of faith. And this community of faith is like no other. So I just wanted to say that. Like, let's just try to keep in mind that we do still have some options to kick at this horse.
Thank you, Candace. Okay, so we are going to, because the Spiritualist Church will be arriving shortly, so we are going to move into, I'd like a motion to appoint the scrutineers being DJ Chrisley from the Spiritualist Church and Phil James from Mount Zion. So Ali has moved that and James has seconded it.
And just so people understand, the scrutineers, their job is they will collect the votes and they will count the votes and then share the result of the vote with the chair, who will then share it with everyone else.
I'm sorry, it was, Ali moved it, James seconded it. All in favor? James O'Deary. Sorry, I missed that. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so can Phil and DJ come to the front, please?
Not yet.
Oh,
Hold
not
on.
yet?
We still have to have it.
Oh, yeah.
We need them to know what the motion is. We
Oh.
need it to be moved and seconded, and then there has to be time
right, sorry.
we have to give time for discussion. And I would suggest because we're on a time limit, this is something we've done at the regional council before, is to say, so we'll get a mover and a seconder for this motion. Then we can have discussion where you can voice opinion and you can say what you think, but we're going to limit it that each person who speaks has a minute to speak. Because otherwise, there's enough of you here that we could go until 2:30. So that is something that, say what you need to say, and also know if someone has said the exact same thing, then maybe it doesn't need to be said again, or it can be a quick, I agree with what was said, and you don't have to rehash it all.
I think you should announce now, though, what's going to consist of a majority.
51%. Okay. Okay, so I need a motion to explore nesting opportunities. Bonnie, seconder Barb Hammer. All in favor?
No.
Oh,
We're having a discussion, and it's a
discussion,
secret ballot.
Sorry.
That's okay. You're in a move. You're working through.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. Discussion?
So this is if you'd like to speak for or against the motion. If something hasn't been said that you think needs to be said, that you want to share your voice or opinion for what this motion is.
Walter Knott. Just want to say a community can move. Disbandment, everybody goes their own ways. So if we see ourselves as a community, I'd like to explore it.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Good job keeping it under a minute as well.
Okay. Okay. So we hand the ballots out now.
We
right?
hand the ballots out.
Okay.
And so again, this is because we had the motion for adherence to vote. This is a ballot goes to everybody. So Phil, can you come and help hand out the ballots too, please? That should be a job of the scrutineers to make sure everyone gets one. Bernie,
The motion
it should just be the scrutineers that are handing them out.
Seconded by Barb Hammer, that we, as Trinity United Church Community Center, explore nesting possibilities. That's the motion that we're voting on.
Do we have any extra pen and pencils for people? Okay.
Do you want me to go collect? Oh, we've got scrutineers.
Okay, I just want to mention, especially to the people voting online, some people did vote online yesterday, but the vote was not called, so those ballots do not count. If you are watching online, you will need to...
And you're an adherent or a member.
And a adherent member, then you would need to revote. And if I could have Eric come up to explain how the online voting is working.
I'll just elaborate for those of you who are voting online. So just to be clear, if you have or are voting online, do not also vote in person here, because you're only allowed to vote once, obviously. For those who are voting online, a link was sent out included in the email to announce this meeting. I'll also post it in the chat as soon as I get back to my computer. And so you fill out your name, you indicate yes or no. Your name is noted in the list of people who voted, but I won't be seeing who voted for what. I'll only see the total number of people who voted for yes or no. So you are anonymous voting online, but you do need to include your name so that we can ensure you are qualified to vote as an adherent. Thank you.
Because as chair, you can only break ties. Okay. So you need to just double check.
Do we not have a ballot?
It'll get collected. What's your question?
Okay, maybe I should verify, yeah. Yeah, so we just had a question. Yes means to move on forward. No would mean not to.
If this comes out as a no, then we would have had to have a second motion because we need an official motion that mentions disbandment. This doesn't mention disbandment, it's do you want to explore nesting? But the logical answer is if that is no, there are no other options. If you need a second ballot because you didn't understand that, you can ask the scrutineers. Before you put your hand up with your ballots, does anybody still need a ballot? Okay, the scrutineers are going to come along and collect. Okay, so we'll also now just ask if you are still holding your ballot and it has not been collected, just have your hand up so we can make sure that that it does get brought forward. Here, if you trust me.
Yes, I do.
So this is going to take a couple of minutes. So I would suggest if people need to get up and stretch, that now would be a good time to do that. Thank you all so much. I know this is a very long process, but is very important, and so needs the information before we can actually move into this.
Well, the last time they were here, so I thought, didn't they go?
Then we have to, I'll say, this is what the motion is asking. Is someone willing to make this happen? And explain. If you don't, you'll have to have a congregational meeting very soon, again, to have this conversation. Or can you give it to the regional council? You have to end the pastoral relationship. The question is, do people want to have a congregational meeting? If they do it themselves, or say, okay, regional council, can you do this for us?
Can I just ask that everyone has signed in on the sign-in sheet? No, you can still chat. I just need to make sure everyone is signed in the sign-in sheet, please and thank you.
Okay, depending on how this goes, great, I'm happy to lead it if you would like. But Pat, depending on if this is a no vote, you probably want to pray. Right, and so you can ask, I'm happy to pray.
Sure, it's whatever you think would be best. It's up to you. Oh, yeah, they'd probably be more comfortable on this one. Okay. Because they know. I just didn't. Yeah, don't want to put me on the spot. No, I'm
Okay, if I could ask everyone to remain, go back to your seats, that would be great. Thank you. Okay, our results are in. We had a total of 50 vote? 22, 50 vote. 50 that voted, 28 yes, 22 no. So the vote carries 56% yes and 44% no. So the threshold was 51%. So people have voted to explore nesting.
So, what I will, we don't generally I understand the want for some people maybe to celebrate, but we also have to understand this is a very close vote. And so there is a significant number of people on both sides of this. And so one thing to remember in moving forward while you're exploring nesting is that with this vote being as close as it was, once you have explored nesting and have brought those options back, it does not necessarily guarantee that you will be nesting somewhere, but it is giving you the chance to explore that. Because as I was talking earlier, I agree, it's not just a financial decision. It is a heart and spirit decision. But if only 56% of the people who are sitting here move forward in nesting, your $6,000 a month is not $6,000 a month. And so that just, again, has to be known. But you will get to explore, because of this vote, explore moving forward, explore seeing what nesting might look like, and to have some options brought back. So I think we didn't have it all listed out on the agenda, because depending on how votes went, it was going to depend on what we did next. And so because of this vote, the next thing is that we do need to create a committee who will report to the official board and who will explore nesting. The official board and I talked about this, and my recommendation to the official board was to have a committee of 5 people, 4 of which being members or adherents of Trinity, and 1 person being a regional council representative to help the committee move forward and understand what questions they may need to ask about for nesting and that sort of thing. So I think, Pat, we need to have some volunteers for that now.
Yeah, so we'll take nominations from the floor, and if we have more than 4, we will have to do a vote, which I have extra ballots for that. Do we have any volunteers to create the transition team? Okay, so Candace, Eric, Andrew, anyone else?
It would really be good to have one more person, just because that way if someone's not able to make a meeting, it is not then down to just 2 people. Yeah. There's
Thank
another
you.
hand up.
Walter, thank you.
So I also want to say, and I'm sorry if this seems like I'm taking over the chair position, I'm not meaning to.
No.
It's okay. We have 4 volunteers. If there's someone else who feels called to this, please don't not put your name forward, because it's like, oh, well, we already have 4 people, so that'll be fine. It is not a problem having to have to have a fifth person, and then again we would do a secret ballot to elect them, because it is this is again an important step forward for the community of faith, and so the community of faith should have a voice in that. And so just having the first 4 people, well, I'm in no way suggesting that the first 4 people are not enough to do this job, right? I don't know anybody, so I can't comment on any of that. Don't not put your hand up because, oh, well, there's already 4, so I'm not needed. So if you don't feel called to it, that's fine. But I don't want people to not do it just because, oh, well, 4 people said yes, so I don't need to. That's not the best way to feel the Spirit moving. Yeah, sure.
Is there a reason why the number for the team is set at 4?
Yes. The recommendation was if you have a team that is too big, it is going to be hard to find time for meetings and to be able to do what needs to be done. If it is smaller than that, then you don't have a good basis enough for individuals. So it's 4 members here and 1 from the regional council. All would be equal members of the committee, which you also usually want to have an odd number. And so 4 then becomes 5. Otherwise, you're going up to 7. And as someone who works in 3 regional councils with 3 executives, every time you add 2 more people, it gets harder to find times to meet.
Yeah, that's fair. Thank you.
Yep.
Are you interested, Jason?
I really appreciate the support. I do really love this church. I have kind of recently semi-retired from pastoral ministry over 30 years, and while I would love to help, I just don't feel that I have the personal resources to give in that way right now.
Fair.
I do feel like I need to be at a place of receiving. So I appreciate your support, but thank you.
No, thank you, Jason. That's very fair.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so we only have. You have to.
Your motion to.
Yeah, well, motion to close or call. You have to call for nominations 2 more times.
Okay.
We have another question from Dina.
Sorry?
She's volunteering her name.
Okay.
So you still have to call for a close of nomination.
Okay, so I need another call for nominations.
We just have to announce it a couple of times. So then, last call.
Yeah, last call for nominations
From the floor.
From the floor. Okay. Is there any online, Eric? So now we do a vote, right?
The vote will be, we'll maybe get a PowerPoint slide with all 5 names.
Okay.
And so that people can see it and they write down 4 of the 5 names.
Okay.
And the people with the 4 most votes get that position.
Okay.
Okay, that's what I would suggest for moving forward.
Okay. Okay. You still checking, Eric? Okay, thank you. Okay, so can we are you able to put something on the screen for the names?
The suggestion is going to be that because we don't need a motion for this because we're not naming people or we have more than 4, so it is a vote. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass out blank ballots again. And what we're going to do is on the screen have all 5 names. And then what you do is on your piece of paper, write down 4 of those 5 names. And then we will count. Yes. Who was the 5th?
Deanna McKenzie.
Yeah. Sorry, it came in right at the end while we were asking for calls for nominations. So then you write down 4 of the 5 names, and the top 4 people that have votes are the people that will form this committee with someone chosen by the regional council.
Oh, I just gave them all.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, first names are fine because they're all different. So while this vote afterwards, while it is being counted, we'll move on to something else because the next item is not related to this piece. Do we still need more ballots? Well, no, these are different ones. You have paper? We can use these and they can write on the back if we need to. So just for process, you don't write all 5 names and put check marks. You just write 4 names. Your ballot should just have 4 names on it. Those are the 4 that you are voting for. Okay? Does anyone still need a ballot? You need 2? Okay, for those people, oh, we have some more at the back. Okay, who still needs a ballot, please put up your hand.
Like this, somebody will get real freaked out.
In the back corner, TJ? He's got, TJ has extra. Phil? No, TJ has some. Does everyone have a ballot? Okay. The scrutineers will now start collecting the ballots. If you need more time, we'll double check to make sure people have had time to write names down. Do you have a question?
I'm checking the microphone.
Now that you've voted for nesting, I just want to let you know, any fundraising, I'm going to support you 100%.
So we won't move on until all the votes have been collected, but then while they're being counted, we'll, with Pat's permission, we'll move on to the next piece. And just as we move into this, also from my own personal, I know how hard it is to find volunteers to do things. So to Eric, Candace, Andrew, Walter, and Deanna, thank you so very much for being willing to let your name stand for this important work. Okay, does anyone still have a ballot that needs to be collected? If you do, please raise your hand. Does anyone still have a ballot that needs to be collected? No. Okay, Phil, I think you can come back and start. Oh, we're waiting on one? Okay, no problem. We're just waiting for one person to finish. Phil, do we have all of them collected? One left? Okay. No, you're talking. And I'm not meaning to rush anyone, just if we are all done, want to be able to move on. We think we got them all? Okay, so the scrutineers will start counting those up. So, we need you to invite as part of the next piece. Yeah.
I would like to invite Mark to discuss how the pastoral relationship is going to change.
So, this is going to be, I think, your last vote on the day for today. So, as I showed in my previous slides and in the previous conversation, the pastoral relationship does need to change. The manual is very specific on how that can happen. And so, what this next question is asking is really, there are going to be, it's not just a yes or no, each one means what the next step is. In order for Trinity United Church to end the pastoral relationship, you will need to call another congregational meeting with the appropriate notice given saying that that is what that meeting is for, to discuss to have the changes in the pastoral relationship. At that meeting, your minister would be allowed to speak. Charmaine obviously is fully aware of the financial situation and understands that this has to happen. But then you would need, as a community of faith, would need to take a vote to end the pastoral relationship. And then depending on what your nesting possibilities look like moving forward, would need to then decide at a later meeting what sort of ministry and pastoral relationship do you need. Because it's impossible to know in 3 weeks, which could be the soonest you could call a congregational meeting. It's impossible to know in 3 weeks if you need 10 hours a week for worship, if you need 10 hours a week for pastoral care, if you need 20 hours a month. It is impossible at this current time to know what that is. And so, because you don't know what your future holds. However, given the financial constraints, as we have talked about, you cannot wait until you know what's going to happen to end the current pastoral relationship, because you just don't have the finances to be able to do that. Any ending of a pastoral relationship is very similar to, as we talked about before, and James asked the question from a text message, of does this mean Charmaine leaves next week? No, it does not. The manual says you have to give at least 90 days notice. And I would suggest that it could be possible to even give more than that, given what your situation is and where 90 days puts us in the calendar year. So that's what has to happen, unless the community of faith is willing to entrust the ending of the pastoral relationship to the regional council, which would then mean that the executive of the regional council would make the appropriate motions to end the pastoral relationship, taking into account the timing, the 90 days, what is needed to have for moving forward. And it takes that burden off of the community of faith to need to make that decision, even though it's a decision that does need to be made. But in this given situation, I don't think that the regional council can end the pastoral relationship on its own without having you telling the regional council you want it to act on your behalf. A court in the church can always tell a higher court in the church, can you make this decision for us? So that would be what this is the community of faith telling the regional council, will you please make this decision for us so we don't have to have that challenging congregational meeting. It could be that you want to have that meeting because you want to have more of a discussion around it and you want to do that. And that is your right as a community of faith to do that. The reason I'm bringing this is I've seen enough of those sorts of meetings to know that they are not easy. And so this suggestion is being brought forward honestly to try to save the community of faith a little bit of extra grief and heartache around that. Now, what I want to say, and I'll try to keep, I'm sorry, I definitely don't have a 1-minute timer for myself, so I'm going to try to keep this brief. What I do want to say is ending the pastoral relationship does not guarantee that, or does not necessarily mean that you will not have Charmaine as a minister in the future. The challenge is you can't keep Charmaine as your current minister at the current hours that you're paying, and you don't currently know what the future of ministry for Trinity is going to look like. So the other thing is, I also can't guarantee, because I am not Charmaine, so again, speaking from my own experience, I personally could not take a 25% cut in my current income and still be okay, and not need to look for other work or something else. I do not know Charmaine's situation, and I do not presume to speak for her to say what she may or may not do. There may be, Trinity may decide in the future that 10 hours a week is what they need. Charmaine thinks that that works, and that there is another position for 10 hours a week that she can pick up as well. And that would then be a future conversation and a future decision of the congregation for what is needed in the future. So while this is ending the current pastoral relationship, it does not mean that I can't say what the future will hold, because Trinity doesn't know what the future will hold for what kind of ministry you're going to need and who Trinity needs to lead them in that moment, in that time. What I can say, and this is just, you have to take my word on it, if you do give the decision to the regional council, the regional council is not going to do anything that the regional council will be still working with the best interests of Trinity at heart. So for example, the next executive meeting is September 10th. 3 months from September 10th is September, October, November, December. Ending a pastoral relationship on December 10th is not a good idea. Eh? So I can promise you that having conversations with the regional council executive, they understand that as well. It is also the situation where, as we spoke earlier, Trinity cannot continue as it is for much longer than that. So ending the pastoral relationship at the end of 2025 may be a reasonable option, because then you're looking into the new year, new possibilities. There's a whole theme around there. But either way, even if Trinity makes the decision themselves to end the pastoral relationship, you cannot keep things as they are until next June, right? That is just not a financial possibility. So what is going to happen is Pat is going to ask for a motion, and she has the wording, because it has to be very specific for this sort of thing. It will be a secret ballot again, where you'll have a yes or a no. So she'll read the motion. We need someone, if people think that this is something they feel that they want to be voted on, we need someone to move and second it. Then we can have a short time for discussion, and then we'll pass out the ballots.
Okay, The motion
So just
is
1 second, yeah.
Trinity United Church, London, requests that the Antler River Watershed Executive make any decisions in relation to the current pastoral relationship due to the current financial situation of the pastoral charge. And it will be a yes or a no. Can I have a mover? James Waltred, second. Any discussion?
So one thing that I want to add, just so people know, no matter, we have a actual,
Yeah,
we have
I
actual
ballots.
ballots with have the motion on it, so we'll pass those out. Just for people to know, and I've talked to some of the leadership at Mount Zion, no matter whether you vote yes or no on this, ending the pastoral relationship, which is something that has to happen, will affect Mount Zion's relationship with Charmaine as well. And they will have to do some work as well on looking at what does their ministry needs mean in the future to move forward. Good job. Nice fast typing. So I just want that out there, that we are aware, even if you vote no, you don't want to pass this to the regional council, and you as a community of faith want to make that decision yourselves, changing the pastoral relationship affects, because you hold the pastoral relationship, affects the relationship at Trinity, or at Mount Zion. That doesn't mean that they won't still have Charmaine. They just have to hire Charmaine themselves for 20 hours a week, if that's something that Charmaine and the group wishes to do. Yeah, he's out, so he needs some more.
Okay, Mark.
No, don't give the totals, just give the names.
Okay.
I'd wait till this is done, just so people aren't distracted. Yeah, he's coming to you. Thank you. If you do not have a ballot and are able to put your hand up, please do so that we know. We got a couple more in front of you here, Phil. We're getting there. Thank you all so much again for your diligence, your patience, your commitment to these important conversations. I think, does anyone else need a ballot? Just before you're getting them collected, does anyone else need a ballot? No. Okay. So now we'll start collecting. So then while they're counting that, you can announce the members of the committee. Wait till they've collected and they're counting. And then we can have any final question for what this all means. And then once we have that vote, actually we can announce we should hit the vote. Or any other questions right now. And then once we can announce the vote, then we can have a motion to adjourn. I don't think there's anything else that has to happen. Do we have to have a motion? Yes, I would do that. I'd let them collect so that and you can then announce the previous vote and then do questions. Anyone have any overarching questions right now while we're waiting for it to be counted? Thank you, scrutineers.
Okay, well, they're counting the votes for this ballot. We have the results in for the transition committee. The transition committee will consist of Eric Shepard, Andrew Odd, did I say that right? Awad, Waltred Knott, and Deanna McKenzie. Thank you to everyone that volunteered. And I do want to just make a note about the transition team. Please let the transition team do their work. I know everyone wants to help out. I did have to field a complaint last week from the Unitarian Church that a Trinity member approached their tent at the Pride Parade and said that Trinity was coming to the Unitarian Church. That then caused a lot of anxiety with that member. So they went they thought that a decision had been made without the approval of their council. So please let the transition team do their job and just try to keep it, you know, let them do their job. So I just wanted to make note of that because it can cause issues. And I have enough to deal with. I don't need to put out any more fires. Thank you.
Okay. And so just to note that the committee is always responsible to the body that elected it. So the transition team is responsible to the congregation. However, the council works on behalf of the congregation in between congregational meetings, which means that the transition team is accountable to council. So council may be checking in to see what progress is made, what is happening, to check on dates and timing, so that information can come back to council, because it is council's responsibility to then set the date for and how the conversation will go and how the votes will go and all of that sort of stuff for the next congregational meeting where options are being presented. When we're all done here, if those 4 members have just 5 minutes to chat with me, we can set that up, and if they have any questions, we can talk about that, and I will have someone from the regional council to be able to come and work with that team as well.
Okay.
So you can call the announcement or the end of that vote. Yeah.
Okay. So the results are in. 29 people voted yes to allow the Antler River Watershed Regional Council to make the decisions, 5 against. So it is carried 29. Thank you.
Thank you.
So now, do we have any other questions on anything that hasn't been discussed today?
So yeah, so we're done all the business. We just will need a motion to destroy the ballots after. But we're done we'll get there in a second. We're done all the business. Is just of everything that's been presented. Again, we're not asking for more for opinion right now, but if anyone has any questions that they're not understanding what has happened today and need clarification, we want to make sure everyone knows what is on the same page, knowing what has happened and moving forward. James, we have a question up front.
When we make these decisions with the nesting committee, is council going to come to congregation, or are we entrusting council to make the decisions?
The congregation will make any decisions on nesting. That's a very good question, thank you. What council will do is they will be given the opportunities and the things, and then that will form how the congregational meeting will go and what questions, if there's only one viable option that the committee comes back with, that's different to if there's 5. And so council will, depending on what comes forward, will allow the congregational meeting to flow in the way to address what the issue is or what the situation is.
None of us volunteers that are in this community do not get acknowledged for what we do around here.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. I apologize.
Say that again?
I said none of the volunteers that have worked in this community do not get volunteered or acknowledged what we do in here. We do hospitality, we do other things in here, and we are not acknowledged for it.
I think Charmaine pretty much thanks volunteers almost weekly. And it is very well known that we appreciate our volunteers. So I'm sorry that you feel that way, but if we didn't have, it has been said many, many times, if we didn't have volunteers, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for volunteering, but it's announced pretty much at least once for the hospitality meal on that Sunday. It's for sure announced. Thank you to the volunteers. It goes out in our bulletin, like our announcements online, thanking volunteers. So I think it's covered. but thank you for your concern.
And I think it should be noted too that the council, you, the chair, our secretary, are also volunteers. And they're being, so we have to remember all the council members are volunteers as well.
Thanks, James. Okay, Andrew, one more. Yep.
We always have Charmaine saying thanks. Isn't our choir great? Even when we sound hoarse.
I agree. Not that the choir is, I meant
you
Charmaine.
agree,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
agree they
yeah,
sound horrible?
yeah.
That's
I
not a
meant-
good thing to
I
agree
agree
to.
with Charmaine, not about the choir. Yeah. Okay.
So we need a motion for that.
Yeah, can I have a motion to destroy the ballots? Okay, Barb Hammer and Harry Cartner second. All in favor? Okay. Now we need a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Eric, Ally. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Before, I know we've had a motion to adjourn, so this doesn't officially go in the minutes, but I'd like to just lead a moment of prayer before people get up and leave, if that's okay. If you don't want me to pray, then I'm fine with you getting up and leaving while I'm praying. That won't throw me off. That is okay. Okay? I'm going to close my eyes so I won't see anyway. Just don't make a big noise and it'll be fine. Gracious and Holy One, we are grateful for this community, for this congregation, for this, your Trinity United Church in London. Today was not easy, oh God. There were hard decisions to be made. Very few of the decisions were unanimous, meaning that there are still people on both sides of every issue. Be with us, O God. Send your Spirit, be present in our midst as Trinity United Church searches and explores ways forward where they can continue to be this loving, caring, compassionate community, if but in a different way. We are thankful for the voices that have been heard this day. We are thankful for those who have volunteered their time, not just today, but every day, that make Trinity what it is, what it has been, and to give it that future that we are searching for. That future is also not going to be easy, oh God. There are going to be more challenging decisions. There's going to be more work required of individuals and groups of people at Trinity United Church. Be with them as they do this work, as they listen to the Spirit, as they explore options, and most importantly, be with this entire community, O Lord. Walk with them as things are going to change. Things are going to be different. But God, we believe in the resurrection of your Son, Jesus Christ. We believe in new life. New life, resurrection. Resurrection is not the same life continued. It is new life. Help Trinity see and find and believe in ways that they can experience resurrection in their lives. Amen.
So I want to thank Reverend Mark Laird and our scrutineers Phil and DJ for all your hard work today. Thank you. Have a good week.